Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regularly scheduled council meeting for Northfield Village, February 27th, 2019. Would you please stand for the pledge? Roll call, please.
Mayor Niehaus is absent. Mr. Magistrelli.
Here.
Mr. Scher.
Here.
Ms. Domzalski. Here. Mr. Hips.
Here.
Ms. Nowak.
Here.
Mr. Wojtusz.
Here.
Mr. Bryan.
Here.
Mr. Wasowski, Chief Buss, and Chief Zolgis will be at the next meeting. Harold.
Here.
And I'm present.
Can I get approval? Can I get approval for the minutes for the last meeting?
We have two.
First is January 23rd, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Nowak, seconded by Mr. Magistrelli. Any questions or amendments? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion?
Yes.
All opposed? Okay, the January 23rd, 2019 minutes are approved. And then we have February 13th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Domzalski, seconded by Mr. Wojtusz. Any questions or amendments? Okay. All in favor of approval?
Yes.
All opposed? Okay, February 13th, 2019 minutes are approved.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak with council today? If not, thank you. The mayor's on vacation, and we're going to do the best we can here. It's small. Things went real well in the last month, so there's not a lot here for the meeting. Reports from municipal officers, the mayor. Well, since he's not here, there's one thing I can say is we've had some complaints and some concerns about WOW moving into the neighborhood. There is nothing that we could do. It's a utility company, so they come in, they did some digging, and the neighborhoods that don't have poles, they're pulling wire all over the poles everywhere. It's inconvenience, but they promised today that they'd be out of here in 3 weeks. They should be done, completely gone in 3 weeks. All the underground digging should be done in a week. But I think it's important to know that we had no decision on this coming in. In fact, we didn't know they were even going to dig. We just thought everything was going to be pulled. So the village had nothing to do with it. We hope that it creates some competition and it works out for everybody. Thank you. Finance Director, Ms. Ingracia.
The only thing that I have on the agenda this evening is the first reading of the appropriations for 2019, the permanent appropriations. This is a draft. It's just so we have 3 readings. These are not concrete numbers. I have yet to meet with the Roads and Public Works and Buildings and Grounds to see what their wishes are for the budget this year. And so it's just a formality at this point. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Waskowski's not here today, the engineer. Law Director, Mr. Bryan.
Thank you, Mr. Magistrelli. First, the police chief should have sent everyone a copy of the police department policies and procedures manual. We've been working on that for the last year and a half probably or so. It is finally complete. We do not expect everyone to read it from cover to cover. It's very thick. It'll take a few months if you do so. But what we would like is for council to authorize by motion the police department to put this into effect. So I will defer to you guys whether you want to do that tonight or whether you want to wait a while and review things a little bit more, ask any questions you have of me or the police chief. So, and again, it's not that, you know, council's role isn't really to write those policies and procedures. That's something that was done by the police department, you know, with some input from me and with the company that was, you know, hired to produce them. So let me know how you guys want to handle that.
Is there a report that would tell us what is being updated and what is new? So we don't-
There really isn't. They're pretty much all new, cover to cover. We started from scratch. So I think the last set was originally drafted probably 12, 14 years ago. And everything was kind of updated by the national service. So, all right, we can wait if that's what everyone's comfortable with.
I think we can wait this way, you know, if the council can, if it's gonna take months to read it, like Mr. Bryan said, or a couple of weeks, at least we can look for some bullet points that we might be interested in, have some questions.
Right, and the main reason I want you guys to approve it is just, it gives them a little more weight and authority that council's authorized these to go into effect. Okay. Right, and again, it's not something we expect everyone to read cover to cover. I mean, here,
Is there a lot more in it than what's in our ordinances now?
here's the hard copy, so this is, yeah, it says nothing with the ordinance. These are policies and procedures from everything from
Can I get that laminated and blown up?
hair and beards to, you know, how they're supposed to take care of the cruisers and everything like that, so. All right. Yeah, we'll get you the laminated version tomorrow morning, Jeff. And the other issue is we need 2 members of council to serve on the firefighters dependent fund board for the year. So I know Mr. Wojcik served in that capacity last year, so I don't know if
I
you're
would like to
interested.
again.
Okay, do we have another volunteer from council? And this is, you know, in case something, you know, a tragedy would happen, it's to help deal with the benefits and.
I'll take it.
Okay, sounds good. Is that okay with everyone? All right, will someone make a motion to appoint Mr. Wojcik and Ms. Noack as the 2019 council representatives for the firefighters dependents fund board?
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Magistrelli, seconded by Ms. Domzalski. All in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Okay, motion is adopted. That's all I have, Mr. Magistrelli.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Chief Zolgis, was at the last meeting. He won't be there this evening.
I'll have to fill it out. I can send it in.
Chief Zolgis was at the last meeting. He won't be here this evening. Chief Buss was here last meeting. He won't be here this evening. Mr. Walters, do we have a report?
Thank you, Nick and council. I got a couple brief things here. Salt bin, just letting you know, we're at about 3/4 capacity right now. We're hoping to be nearing the end of that, but I keep hearing that it's going to be early spring, but we won't hold our breath, you know. With that, though, our salt loader, we had to have Wingfoot from Brunswick come in, basically take apart that wheel. The salt got into between the rim, and it's like a split rim. Salt got in there and eroded, made a leak. Talking to the guy, this guy, that's all he does is go basically from town to town, or anybody that's dealing with salt. It's a very common problem. Steel, salt. So, just to let you know, that was just over $800 to fix that wheel. This past weekend we had that, winds or windstorm. Had a lot of different calls, but we did have to come in for a couple of trees that came down across the road. We got calls of trash cans all over the place, things like that, but we did have some guys in for that. I did get calls on the WOW thing. I'd say Mr. Magistrelli handled that fine. I found out the same thing, so that's pretty much covered. Other than that, I really don't have anything else to report, other than to say that I would request that I can get together with the chair for my department so we can get the budget wrapped up for Mrs. Ingracia so she can finish the appropriations for the year. I don't know if you guys got that last email I sent with the updated version after going over it. I sent it to Nick,
Yes, yeah.
Jim, and Mayor, so it's been a little bit, so obviously we gotta get together soon or whatever to go over it.
Let's talk after the meeting and we will pick a date that works.
Very good.
You want to meet just with the committee members then, or,
I could, if you, and we can do that way, or we can do with all the council, whatever's easiest and the quickest.
How long ago was that email sent?
You wouldn't have received it. So, yeah,
Mr. Mzlowski,
but it was a few weeks ago, Gary.
any, idea of what you want to do?
Yeah,
Jay, what is your availability? What are you thinking?
probably sometime beginning of next week. I'm gone I'll be here like partial day Wednesday. I'm gone Thursday and Friday of next week. I'll be in Columbus. So if we can do Monday or Tuesday, or we have to have this by next council meeting. Is that what you're hoping? Okay, so if not, maybe that following week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in there.
Would council like to sit on this meeting, or should we want the committee to finish this up and then meet one time before the meeting?
I don't have to be at that meeting.
With the committee? I'm okay with the committee.
Okay, very good.
I would prefer either one. You know what, either one is fine. Monday or Tuesday, 4th or 5th. So whichever works
Is
best.
that next month?
Yeah, it's Monday and Tuesday next week too.
Okay, so you would probably want an evening, right?
Yeah, you know what, let's do Tuesday. Can we do Tuesday the 5th?
Tuesday, 5th, 6th, what?
It's up to you. I'm available as a.
Whenever you're ready to go, because you have something you do after school, right?
We have practice, but if we have, I could do 6, 5:30, 8, 7, whatever is best for you guys.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
6 p.m. here or at Ledge?
We can do it at Ledge. That was comfortable.
Okay, Ledge Road, 6 p.m. Tuesday the 5th. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. Reports of municipal boards and commissions. Mr. Hips, Planning Commission.
No report this evening.
Mayor Nee has Recreation Board. I know that the Recreation Board met. I don't have any information. Mrs. Nowak?
Next meeting will be March 6th at 6:30 to discuss the finalization for Easter.
What was that date again?
March 6th at 6:30,
Thank you.
Wednesday.
Reports of Standing Committee. Finance, myself. Again, I want to thank my committee and Ms. Ingracia for having everything prepared. It was a little bit more complicated today, and we had to ask a whole lot of questions because things were done good. But I thank you very much, Ms. Ingracia, for walking us through some of that. Everything's worked out. We can get these budgets going out before the next quarter, and I think that's what Ms. Ingracia is waiting for. That's my report. Thank you. Mrs. Domzlowski, Roads and Public Works.
No additional report this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Scheer, Health and Welfare.
No report. Thank you.
Mr. Voitish, Wages and working conditions.
No report at this time.
Mrs. Nowak, Fire and Safety.
After our last meeting with fire and safety, we went over the budgets, and I asked for the committee to come back to me with their prioritizing. So I do have that this evening, and I will get it to both of the chiefs so that they can have that for our finance director, yes.
And all of council got that, Mr. Voitish put that together. Very nice, thank you. Mr. Hips, Building and Grounds.
No report this evening.
Litigation, Mr. Bryan. Legislation.
Don't say litigation.
Wait, wrong glasses.
We have
We do that.
no report on litigation, but we do have legislation. 2019-05, an emergency ordinance amending Chapter 1280 of the codified ordinances relating to signs on third reading. This is actually the fourth time this ordinance has been on the agenda. We did have a second public meeting last Wednesday, and as a result of that, the recommendations from that meeting, we did change the maximum height limit for pole signs from 15 feet to 16 feet, and the bottom, minimum height of those signs from 8 feet to 8.5 feet. And Mr. Hipp's suggestion, so it would accommodate handicap vans. So those were the only changes from the last, essentially from the end of the year, last redraft, and I think we're ready to move forward if council wants to at this time.
Motion for passage?
Second?
Motion for passage by Mr. Hips, seconded by Mr. Magistrelli. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of passage?
Yes.
All opposed?
No.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
No.
Ms. Nowak?
Yes.
Mr. Voitish?
Yes.
Mr. Magistrelli?
Yes.
Mr. Hips?
Yes.
Ms. Domzowski?
Yes.
Okay. The ordinance passes 5 votes to 1. Next, we have 2019-11, a resolution authorizing the Village of Northfield to enter into the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District Stormwater Management Program Community Cost Share Program Agreement for the Houghton Road Reconstruction and State Route 8 Traffic Signals Improvement Project, and authorizing Mayor Jesse J. Niehez, Chief Executive Officer, to submit the authorization and execute all contracts with the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District and declaring an emergency on first reading. There is some urgency with this legislation. This will allow us to get $127,629 to use for the project from our cost share funds with the Northeast Ohio Sewer District that they've been holding for us for the last couple years, and this is a project that would be eligible to use those funds, so it will offset a significant portion of that project. And the engineer is anxious to get this passed, get the contract signed, and get it down. I think the bid opening is later this week yesterday? Okay.
Motion to suspend the reading rule?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hips, seconded by Mr. Voitish to suspend the 3 reading rule. All in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Okay. Is there a motion to
Motion
pass?
for passage?
Second?
Motion to pass by Mr. Voitish, seconded by Mr. Hips. Any discussion? All in favor of passage?
Yes.
All opposed? Okay. And we have 2019-12, an emergency resolution setting forth the appropriations for the fiscal year 2019 and submitting the same to the county fiscal officer on first reading. And we're going to leave this on first reading. We will have a second read at the next regular council
I'd
meeting.
like to make a motion on that to table it until we get a better idea of what the budget actually is. Because we don't have any of the department heads, their budgets and all that. So it doesn't give you enough information on here.
That's the way, as far as what's going to be sent down to the county is going to be just that type of information. We do have, you will get information as to the detailed breakdown of all the budget lines and the budget, and everyone will have a chance to review that before it's passed and ask questions.
So,
Just so that we have a first reading.
This is the form it's gonna actually be passed in, though.
Well,
It doesn't have the line item detail.
I know it would
on what we
be,
sent out to the
I know it would be in this form, but to have it on here, don't we have to have, I mean, even if it's not the full picture, don't we have to have something more than just something representing the form that we're passing?
That's what actually gets passed and sent down to the county, but that document is based on, you know, our budget that, you know, is essentially gonna be approved, is gonna have line item detail, and everyone's gonna have a chance to look at that and give input and, you know, make sure you're comfortable with that.
So would these numbers be about the same then, do you think?
No, and it's noted very clearly at the bottom. It
Right,
says
right.
these are,
I know it's-
this is just so that we
Right,
have,
Right, but
The
the line
first-
item will be each one of those lines
you
be
will
broken down
receive what
into-
you normally do from me, and I give you that 13-page detail and breaking out the
Yeah.
capital and the debt and wages and all of that, which are pretty much already set in stone.
So the reason we wanted to put this on the agenda is, you know, again, we wanted to get some numbers down that's like a working draft and, you know, move the process forward and get things going to make sure we're going with as quickly as and deliberately as we can. But, you know, the plan, I think, is to,
There will be a revision.
once we get the service department budget down and all the line item details, I'm sure the plan is to have a meeting with all of council and go over it
line by
piece by
line.
piece, line by line, so everyone understands what's in it, and everyone has full opportunity to give input and what they want to see and what they want the final budget to be. And once that's done, that may affect what's on that page.
Well, with the possibility of skipping the 3 readings and all that to still get it in on time, I just don't, to me, this seems a little premature. I don't know, I'm just saying it.
I'm not asking for anybody to pass that. I just wanted to put it on 3 readings because if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Voitish, last year you said you didn't have enough time to review the numbers, so I made sure this year that we had 3 full readings for this.
Well,
And yes,
it's-
it will be
It's
revised.
nice to have 3 full readings, that's for sure.
Yes. So we will definitely go over everything in detail once I'm complete with the financial statements and everything else that I have to do before March
Right,
1st.
so the plan is to have, you know, a second reading at the meeting, which would be what, the 14th? And the numbers, very well, there may
My,
change on
my
that meeting.
financial
It's
statements
gonna
are
be-
required to be filed by March 1st for 2018, so I haven't wrapped that up yet.
So it's gonna be a working document, and,
Yeah, these are not set in stone at all.
so.
You okay with that, Mr. Voitas?
No.
I think we just give us some more time to look at it, too.
I just think.
Tabling it just basically takes it
It-
off
it's-
it will,
It
you know, the
really
next
isn't
meeting,
gonna
it won't be
change
on the
anything
agenda
how we're
unless
gonna
someone
be
wants to
doing
put it
it.
back on.
I just don't know how we can have legislation without actually having the paperwork in front of us. I don't know. That's my thought only. So, what's that?
I don't mean to be out of place or anything, but last year you griped that we did not have enough time, enough readings. This year, I made it so that there were enough readings for this, and now you're contradicting what
Well,
you said
there-
last year. So
To me, there still isn't enough information here.
I'm not
because I
asking
don't
you to
see
vote on
everything else.
anything right now, Mr. Voitish. I'm just asking, or I'm just
I
presenting this.
don't want to argue with you.
I'm not
on this.
arguing.
I
I'm
just
presenting
don't
what
feel
you
it should
asked
be
for
there.
last
Right.
year.
And what I'll say is, I mean, there's some information is better than no information, and that's what we're working off of right now. That's the status of the budget at this point today. And I just thought that would be better, having some information than nothing, to at least have council have something to look at and work off of, so. Okay, do you want to make a motion to table it, or?
I did.
is motion by Mr. Vojtish to table Resolution 2019-12. Is there a second? Okay, hearing none, the motion does not go forward. So, and that's it for the legislation, Mr. Magistrelli.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Old business, new business. I have some new business under the cemetery board. Beatrice Greenlee was sworn in to office to represent us, and they gave her a 3-year term, which is, I believe it's only a 1-year term. Am I correct,
Yeah,
Mr. Bryan?
usually.
It's usually a 1-year term, and she's sworn in for 3 years. And the first meeting, all they did was okay the previous minutes. And I spoke with her today, and she's so excited, and she's so pleased with us. That,
Yeah, with the rotation, we are on the board for the next 3 years, so that's, maybe that's, but we can.
That was the whole meeting. I called to her for an hour about she okayed the meetings. It was great. If anybody doesn't have anything else, can I get an adjournment?
I'd like to make a motion for adjournment.
Motion by Ms. Domzowski to adjourn, seconded by Ms. Noack. All in favor of the motion?
Yes.
All opposed? Okay, we are adjourned at 7:56.
Thank you.